All right. Hello, everybody. Just let me know in the comment section if you can hear me. Then we can get started. Can anybody hear me? All right. So if you can hear me, just drop something in the comment section so I know everything is working. And what I'm going to be doing is continuing on a model that I've done in the past here of a river taxi. So let's see, I just need to find the right model here and open it up. And I'll explain the concept as well. Okay, cool. So got some confirmation. And this is a pretty large file, so it's just going to take a couple of minutes here to load, or a couple of seconds, I should say. I'm going to turn off the stage floor here and also change the workspace environment and turn smooth head cam on so that you guys can see this a little smoother. So if you're using like a tethered headset and you want to stream and make sure that the visuals are coming across nicely, just go toggle to the Gravity Sketch application, press the exit key, and then turn on smooth head camera there. And then you click resume or exit again. And if you want to get rid of the Gravity Sketch logo down there in the left-hand corner, you can press Control G, and that will hide it. As you can already tell, this is a pretty heavy model. This is something that I did as a concept for the city of Durham. So we have rivers that surround the downtown area, and I was thinking a public transportation system. So in this case, it would be a river taxi. And what I've done here is just laid out the concept. I made just enough geometry and designed just enough of it so that I could get the idea across. So as you can see here, you have the entrance station to the actual walkway that then allows you to board the boat here. There's some public lighting, some seating. I dropped some plant life in there as well. And there's this nice little public interface right here, screen showing you where the boat is coming from, where it's going towards, and then letting you know what the schedule is as well. So this was great for me. This was just enough for me to get the idea across, and then if I want to, I can export this and do a final render in something like Blender. It is a lot of data and pretty heavy, considering that I brought in all this shrubbery, which I could actually thin out a bit as well. These shrubs are OBJs from Turbo Squids. So I got a pack of some greenery, and then went through and placed them all over the design to add a little bit more life to it. So what we're going to focus on today is this aspect of the design. So the actual river taxi, the actual shuttle. So I think there's definitely improvements to make on this this entry/greeting area, but where I want to focus on for the purposes of this video is the actual river taxi. So the first thing we're going to do is, I don't want to disrupt this file, so I'm going to press the blue menu button, go to save, and click the floppy disk here to save it. And I'm just going to press the back button here And I think I actually already have an experiment 3, so I'm just going to name it 4, and then save this file by pressing the blue check mark there. And once that's saved, what we can do is come in here and delete the rest of this geometry, and that's going to make things run a lot smoother. Especially, like I was mentioning, this greenery here does a lot for bogging down what I have here so far. And if you're new to Gravity Sketch or you haven't seen a file that's this dense before, obviously, there's a lot of individual objects in the scene here, but the important thing to remember is that each one of those objects has their edit history. So you can go back at any time for something like this, put it into edit mode and change the shape of it and convert it and do all sorts of things, which is really cool. But of course, that makes it so that, hundreds of pieces of individual data is going to bog it down a little bit. All right, so I'm going to get rid of the walkways here. If you haven't used Gravity Sketch before, I'm using the grab sphere here to highlight geometry, and then using this grab button in conjunction with it, and deleting the geometry by holding it and pressing the red button there. And you can adjust the size of the grab sphere by going up and down on the joystick on your right hand. And I'm also going to delete some of these notes here, and yeah, I guess we could keep the water, but we'll put it on a separate layer. So water, grab it, and drop it onto that layer. And let's turn the visibility all the way down. And now what you can see is, well, let's put this entire shuttle on this new layer here and label this one Taxi 001. Okay, so this is the first variation of the water taxi that we have, and I'm going to delete these previous layers. All right, cool. So as you can see here, I've turned on world axes, so we see X, Y, and Z, and I can show you that here in settings. So settings, sketching aid, pull that out here. So I have world axes on right now. There's a toggle for it right here. I have vertical lock on, which makes it so that Y is always facing up. So if I were to rotate like this and then turn on vertical lock, it's going to just rearrange it so that everything is facing up. And then we're going to turn on the mirror tool as well, so that anything we create is mirrored on the opposite side of the mirror plane. Now you'll notice that the mirror plane is Z and Y. It's between those two axes, and we can adjust that. Not adjust the placement of it, but adjust the visibility of it by turning on this slider here, mirror style. So auto scale will scale this visual box to fit all the geometry that you actually have in your scene. And then fixed is just going to have it so that you have this nice gray box that will scale to always fit the same size, regardless of how far we scale in and out. So I like to have that off, so I'm going to turn off that. And then the next thing that I did was I adjusted the workspace. So here we can grab the flashlight and choose the direction of the lighting. We can change the color of the actual environment here because I have the gradient turned on. And because we have things like we have major components on this boat, like the glass that need reflections, I've turned on HDR as well, and I've left it on skyline, and that's going to give me that nice overcast sky reflecting through. Reflecting on the glass that I have here. So I'm going to grab this panel now. Everything's set up the way that I like it here, and grab it and delete it. And that's just going to make it so that it populates back on my hand here. And so now what we can do is start to break apart this design and start to come up with a couple of different iterations. So let's just grab this and make it all one color. Sometimes I like to do that so that I can view what this whole thing looks like, or view what this looks like as a whole. So the next thing we're going to do is expand the grab sphere here and shift it backwards. And of course, you can shift things on an exact axis by highlighting it and stacking your controllers parallel to the axes that you want to move along. And you're going to notice that it actually is parallel once you start to line up those controllers and you get this highlighted line in the color of the axes that you're locked to. And then you just hold the grab button and move your controllers so that you can shift it. Okay, so let's start with the likes. So the things that I like on this design that we have right now, and then we can either build on those things or get rid of them and design something better. So I like having 2 hulls here on the boat. I think that should add some stabilization for something that's like a river taxi and make a more comfortable ride. I like all the glass that we have here. And so I want to continue with that so that you have this nice panoramic view of the city while you're, on your way to your next location. And I like the fact, although I don't know if I'll keep it, but I like the fact that we have some sort of an open area here. So obviously the weather in Pittsburgh isn't great all the time, but whenever it is nice, you want to be able to enjoy that. So maybe we can look at a way of having a section of the boat that slides and opens up for when the weather is nice and can actually close and then be heated on the interior whenever it's when the weather isn't so nice. So those are some of the aspects I like about this. Some of the things that I'm questioning is the amount of occupants. So right now we have quite a few people in here, and I think it would probably be better to cut down this number by at least half, and design some sort of a smaller transportation system. Right. So maybe you have more boats running on the river that can carry less people, and that would probably work better. Or maybe you have 2 variations. I'm not sure. Yeah, and that's pretty much all the things I like about this. Another thing that I don't like about this is the flip up doors here. So I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a good idea. If you had a strong gust of wind coming this way, I'm sure it would put some sort of flex on these joints, and it doesn't seem like an optimal design. So I think in the next iteration here, what I want to have is some nice sliding doors that can, just slide and open up as you would entering like a shopping mall or something like that. So, all right, with that said, I think what I'll do next is duplicate this out. And it's quite a bit of geometry, so it's pretty heavy. Delete some of these notes that I made and drop it onto a separate layer here. So we have taxi 001. Let's create a new layer here and call this one taxi 002. And then grab all this data with the grab sphere and drop it on that layer. And now what we can do is turn down the visibility for taxi 1 and drag some of the elements that we want to reuse here over into our next taxi. So I think what would be kind of cool is actually to shrink down the width of this vehicle. But we'll play around with that. The first thing that I want to do actually is take some of these people that we have here and duplicate them over and start to reuse them in our next design. So I'm going to change their material to toon material, and then I'm going to group them by grabbing them, and while you're holding them, pressing the purple menu button here. And that's just going to make it easier so that I can drag them over and I don't have to expand the grab sphere and make sure I'm grabbing everything. I just need to highlight one part of this group. Okay, so before we move on any further, I'm going to take a look at the comments here. And okay, audio is okay. Great. And yeah, so let's get designing. So yeah, so I want the width to be enough for 2 rows of people. So I'm going to duplicate this out like that and ungroup here, delete those people, and shift back this bench a little bit. This is obviously not a really refined bench. This is just something to get the idea across. And, 2 rows of people still seems like quite a bit. So instead, let's swap that and make 1 row of people like that. Group these guys together. Okay. And actually scooch it back a bit as well so that they have a lot of walking room here. And then the other things that I want to keep as a constant are the dimensions, or I guess some of the dimensions, so the height of the boat. So what I'll do here is actually just draw a rough line here of where the bottom of the boat is, and then duplicate that up so that we have the height as well. And shift that over here and turn that on mirror. And we'll just use this as a rough indication of like the volume of space that we have to design for. So already we can shift that in and get a much tighter design. So the boat is more narrow, but we still have the height here. And then let's take that and move that over as an indication of where the top of the boat will be and then where the bottom of the hull will be. And I'm going to turn mirror tool back on here. And yeah, I guess we can start sketching now. So I'm going to delete this one here and press the purple tools menu and go to the ink tool. And now we have ink tool, so we can do some nice loose sketching, and we have mirror on. And the next thing I'll do is change this to a darker color so that we can start sketching out this idea. All right, so let's start just getting some really rough ideas here. And I have some music on in the background. Hopefully it's not bothering anybody, but if it is, just drop something in the comments, let me know. All right, let's create a side view here. So to do that, I'm going to click the ink tool so that we get this menu and turn on planar. Now, when you turn on planar, stylus is no longer going to be attached to your hand. Instead, it's going to be magnetically attached to this plane here, which happens to be on the ground by default, but we can place it in different areas by pressing in the pointer finger trigger on the non-drawing hand. So by doing that, you can place it nice and roughly. So you just sort of place it anywhere you want. You can start sketching on a flat plane, or you can place it on axes by half holding this pointer finger trigger and moving it towards the axes and making sure that the face of the controller, so the face of it, is parallel with the axes we're trying to snap to. And just like with some other tools, you'll know when you're locked to that axis when the center axis, or when the center line here highlights in the color of that axis. Okay, so now with that, what we can start to do is sketch a nice side view, but you'll notice that this is kind of uncomfortable. If you were to look at what I'm doing in real life, I'm essentially standing at a wall and trying to sketch like I normally would, and that's, of course, very uncomfortable. So what we can do to make that a little bit better is come to settings and turn off vertical lock. So that's something that you'll progressively turn on and off while you're creating. And that's going to make it so that I can rotate it and place this so that it's a little more like sketching at a drafting table or at your Cintiq or Wacom. All right, let's get rid of those lines now. We don't really need them. And then we can turn off planar as well. And keep sketching loosely here. So you'll notice I'm going to turn on planer on and off just to sketch different parts of this river taxi. So for instance, I know that I want the perimeter of this roof to be nice and flat. I don't want to worry about, drawing something and having it vary in Y. So I'll just turn planer on and snap it to, those axes so that it's a little more horizontal and sketch a nice flat plane. And we're going to adjust all this later, so it doesn't really matter too much right now. All right, and then let's group all those lines and shift them out here so that we have our two hulls. And I think right about there looks decent, at least. And I guess we can do some variations here. See, already we can duplicate this out and start shifting lines around to get an idea of different proportions. So we can shift the cabin back here by grouping it and shifting it towards the rear. And then maybe what that gives us is an opportunity to have, let me turn off planer. Maybe that gives us an opportunity to have that open space that I was mentioning earlier up here in the front. I'm not sure, but it's an idea and we might as well try it out. Maybe it doesn't have to be an enormous outdoor space, but I don't know, something. And again, I'm not being precious with these sketch lines at all. I'm just trying to get the initial idea out. And I think that's definitely what Gravity Sketch is best for, is that initial part of the process, just getting your thoughts on paper, except for in this case, it's 3D. All right, let's try and add a center line to this one. I'm liking the direction that it's going. So I'll turn on planer again here, and you know what? Rather than using the ink tool to create the center line there, let's go to the stroke tool and turn on point mode. If you haven't used point mode before, what it allows you to do is have this nice consistent line that you can click out a point every time you press the pointer finger trigger. Now to close that off, you just press the pointer finger trigger on the opposite hand. And when you put it in edit mode, you'll see, let me make it lighter. When you put it in edit mode, you'll see you have all those edit points that you can delete, you can add, you can change the weight of, and you can change the size of as well. So stroke tool is awesome to get these more exact lines. And in fact, we're going to use it with planer just like we were using before. And click in what the bottom of the boat is going to look like. So I'm really excited for this project, or this quick sketch session, to do some surfacing. So the last time that I made this boat, there was not, we didn't have sub D at that time. And so the surfacing was a little more difficult to do, a little more complex. But now I'll actually be able to leverage sub D in this, which will make things go a lot faster. Let's group those guys together. All right, that's a lot of space to have above your head here, but let's double check it. Let's drop in a mannequin. So I'm going to open the prefab section, and under built-in models, which is the default when you open it, you'll have these two mannequins. So let's grab them and drop them in this box over here. Now, once you drop it in that box, you'll get this preview. Now, you'll notice I can't see where my mannequin is, but that's okay. We can locate the preview here. It's going to show me exactly where it is. And you can see it's highlighted there. It's being previewed on the 0, 0, 0 of all the axes. And then we can rotate by clicking these buttons here. So I'll have them facing that way, and then press the blue check mark to drop the mannequin in. So let's make this guy a different color. And I know for a fact that this mannequin is 1-to-1 scale, and that means that I can place him here and get an accurate idea of, you know, how tall this roof is. Is this kind of like an unreasonable height for this kind of a vehicle? I happen to think it might be a little bit tall, but I don't think it's that bad considering that this is a more narrow boat. I mean, maybe we'll bring it down a little bit here, because before, if we look, that's almost, yeah, it's like 1.5 of his height. So we'll bring it down just a little bit there, and that seems more reasonable. Okay, so I actually really like this variation, but we're going to do a couple more and see if we can be even more expressive with some of these next ideas. So I'm going to riff a little more on this one back here. But I think one thing I really want to establish actually is a floor. And that's probably going to be pretty important to continue designing on top of. So what we're going to do to make a floor is use the volume tool. So press the purple menu button, and it's the second option up from the bottom. Click that, and once we click it, you start sketching with it, you'll notice that it operates pretty much just like the ink and stroke tool, except for it connects the space in between the lines with this volume. And that is awesome for making geometry for like wild environments, or different things like that. It's also good to just as a form exploration tool, so you can just really quickly throw some shapes down and then interpret those later with other tools like sketching and surfacing. But there's another cool parameter you can add to it. So if we go and click that twice and open up this menu, we can turn on planar, just like we saw with the other tool, and place it somewhere, and then sketch these nice flat planes like that. And then, of course, put that into edit mode and pull these points around and get a nice, well, in this case, get the floor. And it's not the best across the mirror plane, but that again is okay, because we're going to come in and build all this stuff once we have a final version. Right now I just need something to show me where the floor is. All right, and let's change that to light blue and duplicate that out for this one as well. Again, that's just so we understand roughly where the floor is. Put that in edit mode, shift some of these points. Okay, and I guess it's not the same over here. So we'll shift these guys up a bit, and maybe we can bring the roof back up again to where it was. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is let's just check where the water is going to be placed for these boat hulls. I'm going to expand that a bit. Okay. All right, so that just gives me a better idea of proportion here. So I'll turn that back down and go back to the ink tool, change it to black, turn off, well, we'll leave planar on for right now and start sketching another side view here. So I guess we could go a little more stylistic on this one and try and give it some rake. And maybe we have this sharp drop down like that. And then we can, let's see, duplicate these lines out, see what that looks like. Turn off planar. Let's mess around with the hull a little bit here too. Apologize if some of the lines are really ugly. Just because I'm streaming and running OBS and streaming through YouTube and all that good stuff, I have a little bit of lag here on my end. With modeling, it's not that much of a problem, but with sketching, it definitely does make it a little disorienting. And sometimes lags the sketch lines so you don't get these nice, crisp, flowing lines. Okay, and if you've joined us for a YouTube Live before, just periodically throughout the design process, or throughout the stream, I should say, I'm going to be checking the comments and trying to answer any questions that anybody has. So in a couple of seconds here, I'll do that. And one thing, if you haven't used Gravity Sketch before, if you're just getting started with it, one thing you might notice that I'm doing is a lot of scaling in and out. That is probably the most important, or I guess you could say important and useful feature of working in VR, is scaling in and out and viewing things from every angle and every distance, and just appreciating your design at these different scales and angles helps a lot. Okay, cool. So just for a rough idea of like space, let's just duplicate these guys out here and see how much space we have to actually work with here. Now, I'm assuming there's going to be an entry here, so let's maybe we don't have to delete all of those people, but we can definitely come back here and expand what we've had. Yeah, okay, that's cool. That way we have these entry points on either side, and it's not just like a nice open hallway for people to enter and exit from. All right, let's check the comments. All right, nothing so far. If you guys want to see anything specific, just let me know, or if you have a question, happy to demo that. All right, this one's looking pretty ugly. Let's see if we can fix that a bit here. All right, well, it's just one version. And actually, I'm gonna start to minimize these as well. So I'm gonna take this guy, put it on a new layer here, get rid of that. All right, that should make it a little smoother when I'm working. And actually, let's progress with this one a bit. So I'm going to turn down the visibility here, create a new line, and we're going to start making some clean lines. So stroke tool again, point mode on, and we'll stick with planar on right now as well, and get a nice clean side view. Okay, so you'll notice here I'm trying to grab this stroke and put it into edit mode, and I'm accidentally grabbing these sketch lines that I made below. So in that case, you'll see we have the stroke tool sketches on a separate layer than we do the reference that we're using here. So what I can do here is just go to the layers section, lock the sketch layer, and then that way I won't have that problem when trying to select this line, because the other one is now as set as reference. And let's change these lines to be something, I don't know, more appealing than just black lines. So like a bluish gray. And another nice thing is duplicating lines in Gravity so that you can use them for something else. So in this case, I just took this line here, duplicated it up, and I'm going to use it on that section there. And I might actually do it again here for the roof. And as you can see, I tapered the line here. Sometimes that gives like a nice sketch effect. So again, you can grab these edit points and go left and right once you're holding them and adjust the size of them. But let's say that you adjusted these edit points and a lot of them, they all have different sizes. Well, you can reset the thickness here on this panel, just like that, and they'll go back to normal. If you wanted to adjust all of them at the same time, you have this graph over here that you can slide for different shape types and sizes, and then even change the actual shape of that stroke by clicking these quick access options below here. All right, let's move that in, make it a little more narrow. Drag that guy out like that. And complete the shape. All right, we'll duplicate that down, and that is going to be the area of glass. Nope, sorry, that's the roof. And we'll make another one, duplicate it down like this, and shift it in a little bit from the front, and leave it exactly where it is there. And that is going to be our area for the glass. Just like that. And we can shift that other line out and back a little. Okay. Yeah. Let's keep going with this line here. Drag it all the way to the front, like so. And now what I want to do is take these edit points and move them down in Y. And you'll notice I'm grabbing this edit point, I'm trying to pull it down, and it's not going. So what we'll do is actually put this line in edit mode and then turn off planar on the panel here. And now you'll see I'm able to take that edit point and even make new ones and drag it down. All right, that looks decent. And it's getting kind of annoying to look at, so I'll turn off planar for the stroke tool. All right. Let's thin up some of these lines and repurpose some curves. It's kind of crazy. I've only used, or I guess sketched, a few actual curves here, and then the rest of this is just me repurposing them, which is, I don't know, from an efficiency perspective, it's Great. All right. Not liking the way this is looking. I don't even know how that would lead into that surface there. I mean, I guess. All right, we'll come back to that later. I'm just trying to figure out what that would look like there. But let's add 2 section lines through it. So let's do the roof first. Like that. All right, great. And we could just take that line that we made and duplicate it out like that. It'll be fairly close. We'll have to do some adjustments. And then I'll go through here and clean up some of these lines. Actually, just adjust the scale of them. All right. Let me just adjust the side view here. Okay. Whoa, a little bit of lag there. Okay. So this is good enough for us to lock and then figure out what the interior flow of this vehicle is going to be like. One thing that I'm noticing here is I actually just want to adjust the width so that it's a little more even. Like about that much. Okay, and we're going to figure out a lot of design or things that we want to change about the design here once we start figuring out how the people are actually going to use it. So let's leave that unlocked for right now. Actually, I'm going to turn off planar so that the space is less cluttered. And then I'm going to unlock the rough sketch as well, expand the grab sphere, and shift all that so that it's somewhat centered between all the axes here. All right. And now what I'm going to do is lock this layer. So let's call this clean line. It says lean line, but that's all right. We'll leave it. And then let's lock the original sketch as well. But before we lock it, let's take the occupants here and move them on a new layer. So we'll move it onto this newer layer here and then lock that original sketch. And so now we don't have to worry about moving anything except for the people. And actually, let's move the floor as well. Let's move the floor onto clean line or lean line and then turn that original sketch down. And yeah, change everything to the same color. So we'll make everything a light-ish bluish gray. Lock that layer, leave the people layer open. Okay, so now I'll turn on vertical lock to make it a little easier to navigate through here and always view things as if I'm like standing or sitting upright. And now what we have is a good understanding of, here I'll unlock this previous layer and duplicate this line down a bit so we still understand the perimeter a bit, but it's not a design element. Okay, so now we understand the space that we're working within. We can see the height of this boat. We can see where the glass walls are going to start and end, and we understand the floor and the scale of everything. So what we can start to do is actually ungroup this and start with just one person like this, and maybe put the stroke tool on mixed input and change it to a brighter color and figure out, you know, where we want things to be here. So obviously, what's nice is we have this dip here in the boat, so that we have this nice area here that we could have people walk on and off of it, right? So it might make sense to have the doors right here. So we'll just make some nice quick lines like that. And let's actually see what that looks like. Let's duplicate this guy out and rotate him and put him into edit mode, move the arms down like this. And yeah, place him right here in the doorway and see, actually, let's see how many we can fit hand to hand for the original sketch of the doorway that we have here. All right, so 6 people's width of doors. I think probably that's a bit much. We could probably have a split right here so that there's sort of there's like an in and out section. So you enter and exit here. So let's delete these guys and turn these dudes around so they are entering and these guys are exiting. And that looks pretty comfortable. But the next thing I want to figure out is, and I'll change to a different color here, is do I have enough room to have these doors slide over effectively here and not look, you know, horrible and not, yeah, just function correctly. So let's draw that again loosely, but this time the width of a single door, and slide that over with smart move like this. And yeah, it looks like it's going to work back here. It's just a question of if it will work over here in the front. So let's do that again. Loose drawing in pink, and then slide that door over like this. And it works in the front too. So now we've figured out that actually that sliding door concept that I wanted to keep, we can keep that here, which is really nice. So now we know where the spacing is of everything as far as entrance goes and exit. And the next thing we can cover is seating. So how do we want people to be seated in this area? And yeah, what seems optimal? So there's a couple of things to think of here. Like, do we want a booth design in the back, or do we want individual seats? Do we want this, to resemble maybe what riding on a bus would be, or a train? So let's just start configuring some stuff here. So let's place this guy here, duplicate him out, maybe 3 times over, and explore with the idea of a bench back here. And the nice thing is, really quickly, we can just duplicate things, group them out, and get a very quick idea of, how comfortable or uncomfortable this would be. So already here I'm seeing there's not a ton of space back here for 2 rows. I mean, there is enough to actually do it, but probably wouldn't be the most comfortable thing in the world. Let's just check the comments real quick. And if you guys have any ideas on this, drop them in the comments, and happy to mock it up. GS. Can you render GS objects in Blender? Yep, you absolutely can. You can export them IGES, OBJ, and FBX. If you're using an untethered headset, just IGES and OBJ, but it's great for mocking up geometry and then rendering it in Blender. So the way to rotate an object with precision, yes, there is. I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. Using bridge and sub-D tools. A simple square fortress. Yeah, you definitely can do that. Okay, cool. All right, so exact rotation real quick. So let's use this guy for an example. So if we want to rotate, we can do that a couple ways. We can take both of the controllers, face them together like this, and then highlight the object. And just like with Smart Move, you'll see that you're locked into that exact axis when it highlights in that color. And then you can grab and rotate your wrist and rotate the geometry. This is not very exact. As you can see, it's kind of tricky to do. So there is a more exact way of doing this, and that's with the tool belt. So to access the tool belt, you have to use your grab trigger here, swing it across your body like that, and then select this tool right here, the precision tool. Now, if you look on the inside there, you have like kind of this indicator of what you're going to be using. So if I click any point of this guy with the first tool that's selected, I'll be able to move exactly along an axis, a plane, and I get these contextual measurements while I'm doing so. But if we flick the joystick to the right, now we get this rotation option here. So we can, we can rotate pretty precisely, and it's going to tell you the exact amount of angles that you're rotating that object. So there is definitely a way to do it. You just need to use the tool belt. And yeah, hope that answers your question. For a simple like block fortress, yeah, there's definitely a way of doing that. So press the blue menu tool or button, go to settings, turn on grid, and right below grid you have this density slider. And now you can go to primitive, select a shape, and drop in these shapes. So if I click just once with the pointer finger trigger, I'll get a square, a perfect square. And if I hold the left pointer finger trigger and the right one, I can choose the exact kind of, or I can select a different shape here, other than a square. And then once you have that square, it's just you can use Smart Move and the grid and a bunch of other movement tools here to really quickly mock out whatever you want. So yeah, I guess you can make a fortress that way. All right, so let's figure out a little more of the seating here. Maybe, and I'm going to move pretty quickly with this, so actually I'm not going to worry about being too precise here, but maybe we have a bench that goes along the entire perimeter. of the back section. Maybe that works for back here. And then, or you know what we can have? We can have the bench in the back like that. And then 2 seats on either side like that, facing forward. I don't know, maybe that's a dumb idea, but I'm going to run with it for now as a possibility. And then let's figure out what we can do here in the front section. In the front section, we could have people facing forward like this, maybe. But that might not be best because we have this nice open area here. And what I would like to do is have some doors that open up here so that people can come out this way and, you know, enjoy the front of the boat here. Maybe we'll have a raised railing. And let's actually take one of these guys and place him here. Yeah, something like this. So that when you're actually coming up on the city, you can enjoy it, the view. Okay. That looks a little weird, but again, trying to do this quickly. So yeah, like an open section here, I think would be really nice for people to just enjoy the city. And as you can see, if we just duplicate this guy out, there's plenty of room up here. So yeah, let's maybe leave a clean path so that people can move forward and actually exit. And it looks a little weird to have everybody facing, whatever's going on out there. So maybe we can take these 2 occupants here and rotate them around this way. And then that way, yeah, there's, I don't know, it's not like everybody's facing forward. And this seems a little close if you were to actually going to design a seat as well. See how that looks? It's not bad. There is a lot of open space here in the center. So maybe instead of having 2 sliding doors here, we have just 1. So let's make that a little more narrow. I think that is plenty. Man, got a decent amount of lag here. Okay, and then that gives us a little more freedom here in the back to offer some more seating. and still plenty of room for people to get in and or on and off of the boat. And for these doors here, we can of course have them slide along the curvature of the glass here. Change that to a different color. And yeah, just open up like that. Cool. All right, let's here real quick. See what we have. Yeah, so to multi-select the mannequins there, you group them. The way you can do that is just by, let me take this guy here. Say we have multiple objects. Expand the grab sphere, highlight all the objects or all the objects that you want grouped, hold them, and press the purple tools menu. And then you don't have to grab everything, which is really nice. It's all grouped together. And then you can break that group doing the same thing. Grab, hold, purple button, and it's broken. And if I'm correct, I think there's even history. So if I group these, then these, then these, then these, now everything's grouped. But if I break group, nope, I was wrong. There's no history. Yeah. All right. Let's split that bench up a little bit so that it's actually two separate benches and a nice gap there in the middle. Maybe we could put a table here, actually, something that comes out like that. Maybe. Who knows? But yeah. All right. So this is really good validation of packaging, and the distances and tolerances and stuff that you would need to actually make something like this a reality. So I'm going to take a look at the time here and then see if we can actually get into surfacing. I think we're almost at we're almost at time. So I'm going to do as much surfacing as I can. So let's turn the people layer down. Let's unlock our clean line layer and create a new layer here and name this one surface. Okay, so, and let's also just change everything so it's the same color here. Okay, so if we press the purple menu tool here, select surface, and just start sketching, you can do nice free surfaces like this. And this is really great for fabric, or maybe if you just really quickly want to, figure something out, you can do it with free surfaces. But what we're doing is something more automotive, something more product based, right? We're doing transportation design here. So we want to have some more in-depth parameters to go off of. So what we're going to do is use surfaces in a different way. And to do so, let's press the purple button, click surfaces twice so that we get this menu. And of course you have initial tension here, which allows you to preview the tension that you're going to have and even shift it around like this, almost like you're using a steel whenever surfacing a clay model. And we're going to drag that all the way down so that we have zero tension. It's a flat line. And then you'll see on this slider down here that we have simplified, NURB surfaces, and sub-D surfaces. So normally what I would do is start with NURB surfaces and then convert them to sub-D. But in this case, we're just going to start with sub-D and see how far we can get. So that's all great. We have sub-D surfaces, which gives us a little more flexibility as far as duplicating out surfaces, making holes in geometry and connecting multiple pieces of geometry. But we still have this absolute freedom of dragging a surface along and not being able to constrain it to anything. So the next thing that we'll do is turn on Bridge Curves Beta. And Bridge Curves Beta is really great because what it allows you to do, let me change the surface to a different color here, is use two different curves and create a surface between them. So with that option turned on, what we'll be able to do is highlight one curve down here and highlight another curve up there, the two that you want to create a surface between. Click the pointer finger trigger and drag a surface across. And that is so powerful to do. Now, if we have two curves and we know we just want a surface to populate the entire span of those curves, we can add another thing, which is full curve. So turn on full curve, select your curves, press the pointer finger trigger, and bam, you have a surface, the full distance of both of those curves populated with one trigger click. Now what I'll do is take this sub D surface, grab it, press the blue button so that I put it in edit mode, and then take this vertices here, use Smart Move, and just shift it towards the mirror plane a little bit. And once I do that, you'll see that those edit point icons change to a key lock, which means that it is connected across the mirror plane, which means that we have tangency, which is really great because we don't have that with NURB surfaces. And so now let me just populate in some more surfaces here and see how quickly we can get some rough surfacing on this guy. All right, so that looks good there. Another thing you'll notice is like there's going to be places that you don't want to use full curves. So for instance, curves that have different distances or different shapes. So let's select this bottom of the hull and this top here. You're not going to get a good result. I mean, it's interesting, and you can definitely use it for form exploration. It's cool for that, but it's just not acting the way that we want it to act. And so let's delete that, come back here, and turn off full curve. It's not going to be useful in this situation. No worries. We'll just drag the surface along the exact distance that we want. Let's make another surface here. Let's try full curve here. Good enough. We'll run with it. And you'll notice, just like with sketching, I'm not being super precise. I'm not really worried about precision right now. What I'm worried about is getting in some surfaces that I know I can work with, that I can dial in a little bit later, and that won't give me too much trouble. I won't have to rework, a whole bunch. That's what I'm optimizing for right now, is surfaces that aren't going to give me trouble. And once I have them, you'll see I can piecemeal everything together and have a finished model. Let's duplicate this out because I know that I want to span a full curve here and work with it later. And where else can we do this? Down here. Oh, okay, we don't have a curve down here. We have something different. So I'm just going to duplicate this down, shift it. Nope. Not like that. Duplicate this curve down, shift it back, and this will do for now. Except for I'm not going to use full curve. I'm going to just drag a surface from this distance. Nope. Okay, from here all the way to the mirror plane, and then I can delete that curve. I don't need that anymore. Let's see. Full curve up here. Looks like I accidentally went back too far. Okay, and so now this doesn't look great. It looks kind of half-assed, and that's exactly what I want. But what you can get right off the bat is the proportion of this very clearly. And in fact, we can even come in here and just adjust the color of everything so that it's all monocolored, and view this at 1-to-1 scale and spin it around like that and get a really great idea of what the proportion of what we're going to be surfacing is. And yeah, so now let's get in here and start surfacing. So the first thing I want to do, and it's a little tedious, it's a little annoying, is connect everything across the mirror plane. So I'm going to go to all these surfaces that touch the mirror plane, and sometimes I'll be able to just slide a single vertices, but sometimes I might need to use auto edge loops. And that's going to allow me to select an entire edge loop, shift it there, connect it across the mirror plane pretty easily. So I'm going to do that in the front. I'm going to do that in the rear. Turn it on here. Connect it across the mirror plane. And that is all of my surfaces that are touching the mirror plane right now. So now what I want to do is lock the clean line layer and even drop it down all the way, or maybe we'll keep it like halfway so that there's some visibility, and start to connect these surfaces together. So what do I mean by connecting them together and piecemealing this design together? Well, I can visualize that better by changing the color of these surfaces here. And what you'll see is we have all these sub-D surfaces, but they are different surfaces. They're separate surfaces. And we want to connect them together so that we have a nice shell of the exterior geometry. So how do we connect them together? Well, we take a sub-D surface and we put it into edit mode. So let's duplicate these guys up like that. So, because that's a lot of clutter down there. And so now we have these two sub-D surfaces. And if I take this pink one, hold it, put it into edit mode, what I can then do is press where the color wheel menu used to be on the drawing hand controller. It went away now because we have sub-D geometry in edit mode. So let's double click that. And this menu just comes floating up to you. It's pretty cool, the animation for that. And now what we can do is we have these 4 different tools: smooth, cut, merge, and crease. And we can grab the merge tool here and select any other geometry that we want to add to this geometry that's in edit mode. So let's click this one here. First thing you'll notice is it changes color and material. So now it's the same color and material as the piece that we had previously in edit mode. And the second thing you'll notice is now we can see edit points on it. Right? So now these, even though they might be separate, because the edit points aren't connected, we have 2 pieces of geometry that are the same now. So now all we need to do is actually take these edit points and just match them up to each other. And if there's not an opportunity that you have to match them up, you can delete them and shift things around. And you'll see as I'm going through and I'm connecting these guys, the seam will go away. It will blend together. Just like with any modeling, you're going to do some figuring out of how you want this data to flow together. The nice thing is that it's really easy to scale to any size and see exactly what's going on. Okay, great. So now we have these surfaces, they're connected, but we've lost our radius, right? Maybe we like this radius better, or maybe we don't, but now we have the option to add edge loops. So you can do that by just pointing what is your stylus at a vertices and add an entire edge loop. Or you could take advantage of the crease tool here, grab that guy, press the pointer finger trigger, and select the edges that you want to crease. And there you go. Now you have nice creased edges. And using these 2 tools in combination is also super useful. Okay, so because we did that already, I'm not gonna do it twice. I'll just grab that surface and shift it down here, and we can use it. And yeah, so now with all of that in mind, let's make all the geometry one color, and then the final geometry that we want here another color, just to make it a little, easier visually. And then, yeah, start dialing in these surfaces. So, for instance, before I connect this surface here, what I might want to do is add an edge loop and drag it out and get the curvature of the side of the boat here. I also might want to come in here and delete some of these edge loops that just seem a bit unnecessary. Like that. Yeah, if you haven't given sub-D a try yet, I highly recommend it. It's really useful, really great tool, and it makes surfacing so much easier. All right, let's combine. Actually, let's make sure we have the blue one in edit mode. Not that it matters too much. And merge these surfaces here. Okay, so another thing I'm noticing is that we have double-sided on this piece of geometry, but just a single side on this. Not too much of a problem. We'll figure that out later. All right, let's merge this down here. Let's just grab a few points and shift them out. And now what you're going to see is I'm piecemealing together these pieces. And I can do that by highlighting the vertices, grabbing it, and pressing the pointer finger trigger to create a new one every single time. So we'll do that, and then just connect these points here. And just like that, you had large swaths of surfaces beforehand, and then you're able to connect them together, which is really useful. And that's especially useful with like automotive design where you have these. I'm going to turn off creasing actually. It's more of something that you do as like the last stages, and it's kind of a pain to do progressively, or to do and then progress the model. Okay, so as I was saying, that's that ability to lay these large, clean surfaces and then connect them is actually super useful in an automotive workflow because you have these areas on a car that you call the problem area. And it's usually where the 3/4 is, and maybe the side view forms and the front fascia forms are coming together and they're meeting. And it's a difficult area to resolve in an automobile. So in Alias, a lot of times what you're doing is you're taking, let's say you have a theoretical here. So you have something that's going to have curvature, right? Maybe it has, maybe the surface curves like this. All right, so I'll duplicate that along like that. And you'd have two surfaces, one like this, and then the other one intersecting like that. And that's the theoretical you're trying to build. And you would project and trim these two surfaces so that they then looked like that. And then you would apply a curvature there. So you have to keep all of that in mind if you're building something with in maybe a program like Alias to get that theoretical. Whereas here, you just it's a little more free form. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. It's really dependent on the use case and what you're looking to do, and also the modeling technique that you prefer. Generally, it seems like designers prefer polygonal modeling and like sub-D surfacing, just because I don't know, it sort of reflects the way that they think better, if that makes sense. Okay, another nice thing is, so this is kind of difficult to see right now because everything's smooth. It looks very doughy. But we can take a surface, put it into edit mode, and turn off subdivision like this. And then that gives us this, it gives us the surface without it being subdivided, which is very helpful for seeing 1, 2, 3 values. And then, pushing and pulling these points so that we get exactly what we want. We get the exact curvature that we want. Just like that. Sorry, 1 second. Got a call. Okay, and then of course you put that into edit mode and turn that on, and you get all those nice curved surfaces again. So to get that exact, of course, that's going to take a little more time from me. All right, let's put this guy into edit mode, connect him here. And what I'm noticing here is actually, I want to go back in time here, actually, and separate those surfaces. Probably delete this top one and try something different. So instead, what I'm going to do is select an entire edge loop, duplicate it up, and then grab it and go left on the joystick and shrink it in like that. And I don't know, maybe this is a better way of creating that top surface, is to shrink it in a bit like this, shift it down, and then duplicate these vertices out. And now we can tighten it up like this by dropping in different edge loops. And let's start to get an idea of what this will look like. Let's make some like wood colors. Trying to make a wood color, a light wood. And let's actually create a new layer for the glass here and drop that on it. And we can lower the opacity like that and change it to reflective material. It's kind of useful, getting a good idea of what this might look like. All right, gonna check the questions here, see what we have. All right, cool. Yeah, let's keep going. I want to try and finish this. I don't know if that's actually realistic or not, but I'm just gonna kind of zone in now and try and bang this out. All right, so in this case, because I'm working on the bottom of the boat, I'll turn vertical lock off here, and that's a lot more comfortable. All right, let's connect this bottom part here. Yeah. So flow of this data is not that great right now. So trying to think of what I want to do here. So I'm going to make sure it fits here and then do the same thing in the front and then just span together the middle. So click on the vertices there, connect that there. All right, all that looks good, but having problems in the middle here, and that's all right because we're just going to delete it, span a new surface all the way across like this. And now, yep, just like that, solved our problem. This is also something kind of interesting to make note of is you can either choose a point and click in vertices, or you can half hold and slide along the surface and figure out exactly where you want that. So kind of useful whenever you're trying to match up edge loops like this. All right, that's looking decent. Let's get a little experimental here and drag that surface all the way across the front. Okay, so something kind of annoying that you shouldn't be alerted or concerned about whenever it happens to you when you're using sub-D surfaces. If you have two separate surfaces, so this surface up here and this surface down here, and you connect them together, you use the merge tool, it will break the symmetry that you used to have. So as you progressively add surfaces together or connect them together, you will have to snap together that snap that surface to the mirror plane, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, can't exactly figure out where I want to go with this up here, so I'm going to delete that surface back and actually delete this entire row of surfaces and start simpler. Actually turn off subdivision. Okay. And now what I'll do is, yeah, that selects the whole thing. Duplicate these surfaces out like this. Add in some extra edge loops here. All right, and then let's take a look and see what that looks like subdivided. Not bad, especially because we haven't added edge loops or creasing yet. So the flow of data is good enough for me right now. Except for, now maybe it's not, because I want to have this nice bow here at the bottom of the boat. So ideally, I want to push this up like that. Okay, so to get around that, we don't want this entire edge loop to be selected, so I'm just going to create a hole here. And now grab the remainder of that edge loop and shift it up like that. And now I only have to worry about zeroing in one point like this, and then using the cut tool to continue the flow of data. And that is much better. Not perfect, but much better. All right, let's zone in the rear here. shift these points down a bit. All right, looking better. Wonder how much of this left have to do. Kind of want to start adding detailed parts. Well, actually, okay, let's crease some stuff, and then I'll show you how we can just quickly wrap that up and get some visuals that are good enough for Photoshop for final adjustments, or even to export and render. All right, and if you're not using a Quest, so if you're using a tethered headset, you'll be able to take advantage of reflective materials and really map out how things are flowing together, which is very useful. It's a little bit too computationally heavy if you're using a wireless headset, tetherless headset, I should say. All right, let's check and see if we have any questions. Oh, hey, Peter. All right, let's run a surface along the side here for thickness. All right, nice. Drop an edge loop in here, select the entire thing, and raise it up. And drop in 2 more for a nice tight radius. It's starting to get pretty heavy. All right, so let's turn down our clean line or Valine line sketch and see what these surfaces are looking like. Decent, pretty good. I'm going to add thickness on the roof here. Whoa, what happened there? What is going on here? All right, well, something funky happening there. That's definitely a glitch because I can't even see where the data. All right, let's turn mirror on. Huh. I think it thinks I shifted it. So here's what we're going to do. Turn mirror on. It's kind of screwed up, but we're going to bake the mirror. And, ugh, man, this is really, really bad. Man. All right. I think I have a plan. Yeah. Let's see if this works. I'm going to select edge loops, select the entire edge loop of this faulty surface, and delete it. All right, perfect. Now let's turn the mirror back on. For some reason, it's correct now, and connect it across the mirror plane, and we're good to go. Everything's fine. Okay, so now I have a situation. Oh, actually, sorry. Just want to delete that surface down there. And let's see if I can do this again. Okay, worked better that time. Okay, so now I have a situation where I don't want these two surfaces. I don't want the glass and the roof to be connected together like we were doing with the body of the vehicle. But what I do want to do is snap them together so that they're snapped together but not connected. So we can turn on snap down here, and you get these red points that you can snap to, and these the surface of the points, the edit points of the actual surface that you're manipulating show as well, and you can just drag them over and snap them together. And then you can turn snap off when you're done. Man, a lot of weird things happening right now. All right, let's just save this really quick. All right, let's start adding some details. Let's go back to the clean line, turn that up because there's something that I want to grab here. Actually, there's a few things that we could repurpose here. So let's unlock it, and let's get the floor dialed in, and then let's use some of these lines that we have as well. So I'm going to delete some of these other lines here. And now let's get rid of clean line, and let's get rid of the top of the cabin here as well. Actually, let's turn clean line back on. I know this is kind of getting confusing. And then separate the floor. All right, clean line back down again. And now let's create the floor for this guy as well. So we're going to use sub D for that again, but now we're going to use a primitive cube. So let's turn on grid so that we can drop that cube in exact fashion like that. And now let's turn grid back off. And now let's use the rough parameters here to adjust this cube size. Place it down there. So now we know the height. And then delete it. Take this cube, convert it to sub D, connect it across the mirror plane, shift it out like this. And now we can even add extra edge loops. All right, and now we have a nice little floor. And see what it looks like subdivided. And actually, let's duplicate it up and delete it so that it's a single surface. And now hopefully here we can actually use snapping a little more efficiently. So again, I don't want to connect these surfaces. What I want to do is have them follow each other by using snap. Okay, so put this guy in edit mode, turn snap on, and we can connect it like that. Okay, perfect. And so now what I want to do is select this edge loop and duplicate it up like this. Yes, perfect. And then use snapping in that manner. And let's change that to a wood color. You can start to get an idea of what that might look like. Actually, sorry about that, guys. We'll save that all for later. Turn snapping off. Select this. Select an edge loop. And duplicate it down. All right. That's a nice floor. Now we can move on with the rest of this. Clean line again. Now we can change this to the color of wood. Delete that edge right there. And now we can add some details. So I'm going to use the stroke tool, make kind of a metal finish here, point mode. Just like that. All right, so now we got some detail going along here. It's kind of nice to be able to use these curves for, something else. So for instance, I could duplicate this guy up like that, put it into edit mode, change the shape type, shift it around a little bit like this, and start to get some just added realism. Well, maybe not realism, but detail. All right, let's see if we have any questions. You seem stressed. Maybe just a little bit. Okay, and then you can also use this smooth tool here and dissipate a radius, which is kind of nice. So we can actually slowly dissipate that radius from the side view as it leads into the rear here. Not sure why this surface isn't showing. Let's try and make it again. Full curve. Oh, not that one. That one there. Okay. Connect it across the mirror plane. Yeah, okay. Now we can do things. All right, I'm going to lock the glass so that I don't accidentally shift it. And then I'm going to just assume that our door opening was right there. All right, let's see what that looks like with our notes on top. It's not bad. So if we lock everything except for the people, and of course make that layer active, now I can delete the notes that we made. And change the people on the interior here to a flat material, which kind of gives a cool effect. All right, so I think I'll probably end the live stream now, but yeah, that's just a quick example of